All right, kiddos. We are going to continue on the practice tests, starting with question 11. Question 11 says, Melanie wants to buy a phone that is on sale for 60% off its original price. Her grandma agreed to pay for $50 of the cost. If the original cost of the phone is $500, how much will Melanie have to pay for the phone? The goal here is to write an equation to solve in order to answer this question. And so in order for us to do that, we're first going to address this part of the question. She has a phone that is 60% off of its original price. So remember, percents are always out of 100. All right, so if this diagram represents 100% of the cost of the phone, then this 60% would be what she does not have to pay. All right, this is off, 60% off of the phone, which means that in order to figure out the percentage of the phone that she does need to pay, we would take 100% and we would subtract 60% from it. So that means she is only paying for 40% of the phone. All right, so her responsibility is 40% of that phone. That's what she has to pay. And we can write that as a decimal. All right, so when we take a percent and we write it as a decimal, percents are always out of 100. So we're going to take 40 and we're going to write it over 100. And we're going to divide 40 by 100 and we're going to get 0.4. Okay, so I did all of that math just to come up with the conclusion that Melanie is going to pay for 0.4 of the phone. That's what 40% would represent. And of in math means to multiply. Okay, so we are going to start to create our equation. I'm going to use the variable P for the cost of the phone, P for phone. So P is going to represent how much she has to pay, the dollar amount she pays. All right, so I'm going to create my equation by saying she's going to pay 40%, which is 0.4 of the phone times P times the cost of the phone. But her grandma is going to pay for $50. All right, so she is going to have $50 less than that total cost of $500. So the easiest way to write this equation would be to work backwards, right? We're going to start with the $500 that the phone costs, but her grandma's going to pay for 50 of it, so we can subtract out that 50. And she is going to pay for 40% of this amount, right? So she's paying for 0.4 of times this amount. And that's going to give us the amount of money that she needs to pay for the phone P. All right, so this would be the equation that I would go ahead and solve. And again, I'd recommend that you use Desmos. I'm going to start by subtracting 500 minus 50, and I'm going to get 450. And then I'm going to take that 450 and I'm going to multiply it by 0.4. And 450 times 0.4 is 180. Okay, I could pull that off to the side and I can do the math, or I could, like I said, use Desmos. 4 times 0 is 0, 4 times 5 is 20, 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2 is 18, decimal point. Okay, so this tells me that instead of the phone that originally cost $500, Melanie is only going to have to pay for $180 worth of that phone. The trick here was knowing that she has 60% off of the phone, so that she's really only paying 40%. That was the trick or the key for this problem. Question number 12. Wayne is making cookies. He has a sack of flour that has 4 3/4 cups in it. He uses all but 1.5 cups. Which of these also describes the amount of flour used in Wayne's recipe. In order for us to answer this question, we first need to figure out how much flour he uses. We know that he uses all but 1.5 cups. That doesn't mean he used 1.5 cups. So in order for us to figure out how much he did use, we're going to take the 4 3/4 cups that's in the sack, and we're going to subtract the 1.5 cups that are left over. And that's going to tell us how much he used. All right, now again, ladies and gents, you can go over to Desmos and you can use it to help you solve this. I'm going to do it mathematically. So I'm going to find common denominators. The lowest common denominator is going to be 4. Okay, so this top fraction doesn't change because it's already in fourths. But to get from 2 to 4, I times it by 2, and 1 times 2 is 2. Now I'm going to subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1. My denominator stays the same. And 4 minus 1 is 3. All right, so what I just discovered is that Wayne used 3 1/4 cups of flour to make his cookies. All right, I don't care that he used all but 1.5. The target is that he used 3 1/4 cups of flour. All right, so now that I've got that information, I'm going to look at all of my answer choices and I'm going to see which one of them gives me 3 1/4 cups. This one says, which of these also describes the amount of flour used? So he used 3 1/4. So I'm going to try and figure out which other one of these choices gives me 3 1/4. Choice A says using 12 packets and each packet contains 1/8 cup of flour. So he has 12 packets and they're each 1/8 cup. Each means multiply. I can put my whole number over 1. I can multiply straight across. I get 12/8. All right, and then I can divide these both by 4. I could also just do the division of 8 goes into 12. That's fine too. All right, but I'm going to simplify. And 12 divided by 4 is 3, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. And then to take 3 halves and to turn it into a mixed number, I say 2 goes into 3. Top dog goes in the doghouse. 2 goes into 3 one time with 1 left over. So this becomes 1 1/2. This becomes my numerator. This is my denominator of that fraction. So in this case, if he used 12 packets that each contain 1/8 cup of flour, he would be using 1 1/2 cups of flour, which is not 3 1/4. Okay, so that is incorrect. So it's not A. Okay, now we're going to do B. B says using 2 bowls each containing 1 5/8 cups. So I want 2 bowls with 1 5/8 cups in it. I can either do 1 5/8 plus 1 5/8, or I could do 2 times 1 5/8. It's up to you, whichever one you think is easier. I'm just going to add them. I think it's easier. All right, so I'm going to stack them 1 5/8 plus 1 5/8. And because my denominators are the same, I just add my numerators. 5 plus 5 is 10. My denominator stays as an 8. And 1 plus 1 is 2. All right, now this is kind of confusing. I've got 2 whole ones, and I also have 10/8. Well, 10/8 is really, if I divide it, 8 goes into 10 one time with 2 left over. That becomes your numerator. Your denominator is your divisor. And then if I simplify this, I can divide these both by 2. I get 1 1/4. All right, so that's just the 10/8. 10/8 is the same as 1 1/4. So if I have 2 and I have 1 1/4, I can now just add my whole numbers together. 2 plus 1 is 3, so I get 3 1/4. And ladies and gents, that was the target number. That is how much Wayne used to make the cookies, so the correct answer is B. Obviously, you need to be very strong in adding and multiplying and simplifying fractions. If you struggle with your fractions, you are going to be using Desmos to do the math. All right, so you would be pulling over to Desmos and you would be entering 1 5/8 plus 1 5/8, and it will give you that answer. Let's move on to number 13. All right, number 13 says, LaShawna wants to buy a new beach cruiser. The model that she likes is on sale for 20% off of its original price. Her parents agree to pay $30 of the cost. If the original cost of the beach cruiser is D dollars, which expression represents the amount LaShawna has to pay? Kids, this was just exactly like this problem. We just did question 11. It's almost exactly the same. In question 11, Melanie bought a phone that was 60% off and her grandma paid $50. In question number 13, LaShawna is buying a beach cruiser. It's 20% off and her parents pay $30. So this problem is almost identical. All right, so let's just talk about this in general. If we show the overall beach cruiser's cost like this, and we say that this is her total amount of the beach cruiser. All right, so this is the cost, which we don't know what it is, but it is 20% off. Then what percentage is she paying for? If it's 20% off, she's not paying for this part. She would be paying for what percent? Well, we could find that by subtracting 100% minus 20. And we'd get 80%. So LaShawna has to pay for 80% of that scooter. But her parents agree to pay for $30 of it. So just like in the last problem that we did that was similar to this, we are going to take this percent and we are going to write it as a decimal. Another way to write a percent as a decimal is to divide it by 100, which means to move the decimal point 2 places to the left. All right, so 80% is the same as writing 0.8. Right, so she's going to pay 80% of the cost. Or she is going to, let me write that out. She is going to pay 80% of the cost of the scooter. Minus $30 that her parents are going to pay. All right, so this 80% is going to be written as 0.8 of the cost of means multiply, and the cost of the scooter is D dollars. So 0.8 times the cost of the scooter, D, minus the $30 that her parents are going to pay. That's this expression right here. However, if we look at our answer choices, it gives us a lot of different options. It says it could be number 1, it could be 2 and 4, it could be 3 and 4, or it could be 2, 3, and 4. So we need to look through these other expressions and see if any of these other expressions mean the exact same thing as this. Okay, so I'm going to take expression number 1, and I'm going to look at it. It says 0.20D minus 30. Well, if you look at our picture, that 0.20D, that's representing the 20% of the cost. That's what she would save. That's not how much she needs to pay. So the 0.20D represents the wrong information. It represents the discount, the amount that she's saving. So it can't be number 1. Okay, I'm going to look at number 2, which we already said was correct. Let's look at number 3. Number 3 says 0.8 times D minus 30. And we're trying to figure out if this gives us the exact same equation as this, or expression. So in order for me to figure that out, I'd need to distribute it. And 0.8 times D is 0.8D. And then 0.8 times negative 30 is not going to give me negative 30, which is what I need. It would give me 24. So when I distribute that 0.8 times that negative 30, I get negative 24. And that does not match my 0.8 D minus 30. So it can't be number 3. So just by process of elimination, I don't even have to worry. Oh, I do have to worry because 2 is correct. We know 2 is right. And the answers with 2 in them are 2 and 4 only, or 2, 3, and 4 only. And we know it can't be 3. We've already eliminated 3. That means this isn't a possible answer. So the correct answer has to be B. Let's just take a look at answer choice number 4 and make sure we understand why it is correct. Okay, so answer choice number 4, I'm going to write it over here. It says D minus 0.20D minus 30. All right, what this is doing right here, guys, it's taking this 100% of the cost, which we are calling D, that's this, and it's subtracting this 20% that she doesn't need to pay right here. And if you look at this mathematically, the invisible coefficient, the number that's sitting invisibly in front of that letter D, is a 1. So if I take 1D and I subtract from it 0.20D, these are like terms, they both have a D. If I take 1 and I subtract from it 0.20, line up those decimal points, watch what I get. 0 minus 0 is 0. I can't do 0 minus 2. I borrow from the 1. 10 minus 2 is 8. So when I do this subtraction, I end up getting 0.80. Right? So I get 0.80D. That's what I got from combining those two together, minus 30. And if you compare this to the target expression, they match. So the correct answer for this question is B, which is 2 is a correct expression and 4 is a correct expression. This is a very complicated question. This is a DOK 3. I would expect a lot of you guys to struggle with this question. Make sure you take notes. Question number 14. FedEx charges an $8 fee plus 50 cents per ounce. What does per mean? FedEx charges an $8 fee plus 50 cents per ounce to ship packages. Which equation can be used to find the weight of a package in ounces that costs $12.75 to ship? So it's got a total, right? This $12.75 is my total amount. That's how much I'm paying. Whoops. And so we're going to start to set up our equation, all right? So what I know is that I'm going to pay a fee, and plus I'm going to pay money per ounces. And that's going to give me my total of $12.75. Right, so I have to pay a fee for FedEx to ship it, plus I'm paying a certain dollar amount per ounces. All right, so we don't know how many ounces. That's what we're trying to find out. We're trying to find the weight in ounces. That's our unknown. So we're going to call that a variable. And if I look at my answer choices, some of them have P's, some of them have X's. It doesn't really matter. So as long as I know that that's going to be my variable, okay? So here's how this is going to look. What is my fee? Well, my fee is $8. So instead of the word fee, I'm going to put my $8 there. And how much am I paying per ounce? I'm paying 50 cents per ounce. So 0.5 or 0.50. Per means multiply. The number of ounces, which I don't know, so I'm going to multiply that. 0.50x. And that's going to give me a total of my $12.75 that I need to pay for the package. If I were to solve this equation, it would tell me how many ounces the package was. So which equation matches this one? Well, it's this first one. Okay, they use the letter P, I use the letter X. Either way, they match. And this one just says which equation, meaning it's a single solution. You don't need to pick more than one. Question 15. The golf cart rental company charges $5 for each day a golf cart is returned overdue. So they're charging you a fee or a $5 per day, each day, plus a one-time fee of $10. Okay, so again, we're going to set this one up just like we did the last one. It's going to charge us a fee, and it's going to charge us money per day overdue. And that's going to give us the total amount of money we need to pay for having our golf cart be overdue. Okay, so the fee plus the dollars per day is going to give us our total amount. Our fee is $10. So it's going to charge us $10 plus the amount of money per day, $5 per day. So it's going to be $5 per the number of days D. And that's going to give us our total amount of money that we owe. Okay, I can use this information to answer this question. Okay, the question goes on then to say, the function table below, so this table shows the relationship between the number of days a cart was overdue, that's this column right here, and the total penalty in dollars that you need to pay. What would the total penalty for a cart that was 50 days overdue be? So if it were 50 days overdue, we're trying to figure out how much money we would owe. So I can take that number 50 and substitute it in for D, which represents the number of days. Okay, so I'm going to do 10 plus 5 times, and instead of D, I'm going to say that golf cart was 50 days overdue. I wonder what was going on with that golf cart. All right, so I'm going to do my multiplication first, following order of operations. 5 times 50 is 250. So 10 plus 250 is going to give me 260. And that represents the total amount of money that I owe. So 260 is B. You could have solved this or figured this one out by looking at the chart and trying to figure out how the numbers are relating to each other. But I think that's more complicated because the numbers don't increase at a constant rate, right? So this is adding 5. From 10 to 25 is adding 15. From 25 to 50 is adding 25. So it's kind of complicated to figure out what they're doing. I don't know that this would be an easy way to get to this answer. I would prefer that you use the equation. Okay, moving on to question 16.